This evening, what we're going to be talking about is specifically the veil, whether it is, as our title says, a mark of separation or a statement of identity, or indeed an affront to ancient British civilization or a vital liberty for all Muslim women, whatever. We won't be taking any kind of a vote. I think that would be outside the spirit of this dialogue, but at the end of the evening, I will be asking for a show of hands as to whether anybody has had their mind changed a little by anything that they've heard anybody say this evening. It wasn't, of course, just Jack Straw who opened the debate on the veil, but he certainly pushed it into the public domain with a vengeance, particularly speaking of the full-face veil, the niqab. We've also had, of course, the French ban on the jilbab even, and the, sorry, I get the words wrong. It's the hijab, sorry, of the hijab, and the recent very striking case of the school teaching assistant who has, I believe, now lost her job, though there may be another appeal pending over her insistence on wearing the veil, or her apparent insistence on wearing the veil when there was a man in the classroom. So I'll introduce each panellist, and each one in turn will just speak for a few minutes on where they're coming from, what their perspective is at the beginning of this discussion on this topic. And let's turn first of all to Deborah Orr, because she's a very distinguished journalist, associate editor and award-winning columnist with The Independent, and formerly edited Weekend Guardian magazine. And before Jack Straw, a couple of months before Jack Straw, she wrote articles criticising the full-face veil from a modern and feminist perspective, and these triggered intense and very interesting debates within the pages of The Independent. I think for the debates, at least, we were all grateful. Deborah, would you like to kick off with what your perspective is?
I think the point at which I really started to feel uncomfortable about the full-face veil was in a restaurant in London during the heat wave. I'd seen quite a lot of women toiling around, very, very hot and uncomfortable looking, and in this restaurant was a fully veiled woman with her Western dressed husband and her Western dressed children sitting at a table eating and lifting her veil to put her food into her mouth. And that seems to me quite extreme behaviour, that you can't just enjoy your food when you're outside without having to lift a veil and eat. I feel about that level of restriction on a women's freedom that it's uncomfortable for me. I was brought up understanding and admiring the battles that had been made by women before me over the last 100 years in order that I can have freedom to eat in public without having to cover my face, to have an education, to see myself as equal to men in every way. And I really don't like the implication that women aren't equal and women have to be more careful than men and hide themselves more than men, and that women are somehow responsible for male sexuality and for protecting themselves from men, when I do believe that all people should take responsibility for themselves and their actions and what they do, and shouldn't, as adults, be coddled by someone else, and that women shouldn't take on responsibility for male sexuality in that way. So those are my objections to the full veil. I'm not against the hijab at all. I think it's charming.
You see, there are three things that have struck me about this debate since, really for me, it took off with Jack Straw. I have to confess I didn't read your piece till after that had happened. And the three things that kind of struck me about it were the fact that, see, we can get into these debates, and I could sit here right now, I could present the research that we've done, I could talk and sort of articulate the sort of feelings of liberation that many Muslim women have on adopting the hijab, the niqab, face veil.